This weekend, I 100% would have rather gone 2-0, but we'll take a road win and then a game that we were able to learn a lot from. I think we started out kind of slow against Alcorn, but once we kind of started to figure out just the flow of that match, it went a lot better and pretty much dominated those next two sets. With Ole Miss, I told the team I hate losing more than anything, but it's good for us as a staff to be able to sit back and learn and grow from just how that match went. Yes, the score was close, but for me, we didn't play our best ball. It's close in the first set where they're giving us opportunities that we need to capitalize on and could have won. I think we led most of the second set to where I think if we finish that set out, then we put ourselves in a better position to go and win that match. We talked as a staff, we have to remember at the end of the day how young we are and how new of a team that we do have. We only have a few returners from last year, and so there is a big learning curve that is still happening. And I think if we continue to focus on that this last week of preseason, we have to control what we can to fix those things going into conference in 2 weeks.
Talked about all the new faces. And just in comparison, to last season, you had a lot of new faces and new places and things like that. And the big difference is, you guys are turning those into wins, whereas maybe last year, some of those would have been tough losses or losses you felt like, your team had, but it got away. What is kind of the big difference that you're seeing from, the new faces of last season, new faces this season, and how is that like transitioning to getting the dubs now?
Yeah, I do think overall we have just a more athletic, more competitive, hungry team that they know volleyball. They know how to go win, but there are some just IQ parts of the game that we are still trying to figure out that in the matches that we have lost, that is what has hurt us. We've faced teams that are good and potentially better than us, but if we learn from those and grow from those to where they're eliminated, we're winning those matches versus losing them. And I think this team will get there. I think we had a great conversation this morning about some things that we need to improve on. I think that they had a great conversation as a team yesterday, just based off of, asking them this morning. And so I'm excited to go into this week being back at home.
You talked about how young your group is. Does it still kind of impress you how well y'all are doing considering how young the group is early on in the season?
Yes. So my assistant Sarah and I were talking about it this morning. The fact that we are 6-2, being this young, being this new, is great. Like, we would absolutely rather be on the 6-2 side versus the 2-6 side. And I think with having a young team and having so much new personnel, it could go either way. But I think it does speak volumes of the potential that we do have as a team, and what we can still do moving forward.
You talk about being young, new, and so forth, but for example, your two setters, they're new, but they're not young. They've played high level, California volleyball. How key is that to have those two?
Experience in that position is absolutely important. The difference is every program system is different. The offensive and defensive systems and programs are different. And I think ours is different based off of where both of them came from. And you still have to build trust within a team to be able to go out and perform at a high level and be successful. And so, yes, they are very talented, and they do help us in situations, but there are areas that they still have to grow in. We talked about it this morning with them, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This weekend against Ole Miss, Chelsea Gilmore is scoring almost every single time in front of the setter, whether it's on a quick, whether it's on a rip. And then for some reason, we get stopped one time and send her behind the setter, and it's not successful. So we told them they need to prove to us multiple times that it's not going to work before we change something up. And then when we do, it's just to create a decoy to open up somebody else one-on-one.
You finish up non-conference with Southern and Nichols, and then you get into a pretty heavy conference slate, Texas State and then App State. What are you looking to see in these last two non-conference matchups out of your girls before you dive into a pretty tough conference slate to start the year?
So, message right now, we've got to control our game. We've got to be able to handle a scout in a match. We do a very good job as a team just regurgitating all of the information that is provided, but actually applying what we are giving them is the biggest thing. There were a couple times that we were doing it this past weekend. I mean, we did it on the very first play. Grace goes up for a ball on the outside and goes high, hands off the block, like we put in a scout, and it scores. And then we go away from it. So I think the biggest thing is just learning to stick to a scout, making good adjustments, not just adjustments to make them, and controlling what we can. There's like I said, the IQ part of the game that we are still learning and working through. So controlling what we can in that sense in these last 2 matches at home this weekend to prepare us for a very strong conference weekend against Texas State.
Chelsea Gilmore has been big for y'all to start the season, top 5 in the Sun Belt in hitting. Can you just kind of explain her development throughout the season, what you've been seeing out of her?
Yeah, I think CG, she's developed quick. She transferred in from North Carolina State as a redshirt freshman. And so we've been able to just work with her a lot. I think she grew her first semester, that first spring she was here, tremendously. And she's very, very offensive for us. I mean, the girl's touching 10-2 plus, and so she's up there. She's athletic. If we give her the ball, she's scoring a lot of the time. She is effective. We need to get her going on the defensive side. She is very capable of doing so, but right now she's been more offensive for us. And so, we talked today. We worked in some positionals, and one of those was with Will and I. We were with setters and middles and just working on that connection and then being available. And so we have to continue to feed her the ball more because she is very effective.
Kind of cool little stat here. Your team is 7-1 in opening sets this season. How important is that for your squad to know that you're consistently getting off to fast starts in games and you're consistently coming out on the same page?
Yeah, so I had talked about that with them last week. I really just asked them, how do you guys feel like we're starting? Some of them said okay, some of them not great. I said, we're 6-0 right now in first sets. We start off really strong, and it's the third set that we need to be concerned with right now. And yes, this was the first weekend that we did drop a first set, and I think that's, we have to capitalize when the other team is making errors. We have to make smarter decisions and situations to where we don't drop that first set. But that is a great stat to have. I will go 7-1 all day long in a first set because to me it is important to start off really strong and just be consistent. We tell them volleyball is, it's the best 3 out of 5 for a reason. Anything can happen, and it does in this game, no matter what level you're at. And so I think it's important to come in and set the tone early.